Variables we see right now store simple things like numbers or strings, but what if we want to represent something that's more complex? For that, we use objects. They're like our own data type that contain combinations of other data types. Specifically, they're a collection of data which has properties that we can define. We can use objects to model real-world things. They become a powerful tool that we can use to design complex programs. Objects have properties and methods. Properties, also known as attributes, are features of the object, whereas methods are actions performed on them. Let's think about a car. What traits or characteristics would every single car have? There are heaps of possibilities here. Pretty much all cars will have a model and a colour. It also has a total number of kilometres it's been driven, and we can record whether or not it's second-hand. These kinds of facts will be the properties of a car object. Now, what about methods? What can we do to or with a car? Also lots of options. We can drive it, we can sell it, we can park it, or give it a new paint job. The more properties and methods we define, the more information we and the computer know about the object. We might know what a car is from our previous knowledge, but the computer doesn't unless we tell it. We can make our objects as simple or as complicated as we want it to be. Let's look at our car object in code form. Objects are enclosed in curly brackets and contain their sets of properties and methods separated by commas. So here we're creating a variable called car and assigning it to an object. To give it properties, inside the object's curly brackets, we write the property name and then the value of that property. So here we have the property model and we've given that a string value. Same for the color property. Then for the property of its mileage or the total kilometers it's driven, we've given that a number value. And then for the property of whether or not it's second-hand, we've just called that property is second-hand and given it a Boolean value. To access the properties of an object, we use the name of the variable, then dot, and then the property name. So we can console.log this, and let's see what we get. So we have our car object here, and we've printed out car.model, which gives us the model property of car. Adding methods is basically like adding a property where the value is a function. So we write the method name just like we did the property names, then a colon, and then the declaration of a function, just like we did in the previous video on functions. The only difference is that we don't need to put the name of the function because the name of the function is just the name of the property here, or the name of the method. So here we have the drive method that we mentioned earlier. So we have the name of the method, which is drive, and a colon, then the function keyword. Then to give it parameters or arguments, we put them in brackets next to the function keyword. So here we're giving the drive method the distance value as a parameter. Then in the curly brackets for our function, this will be what the function is doing. So we have here this dot total kilometers driven plus equals distance. Now, JavaScript has a keyword called this. In this workshop, when we're using this, it will be used to refer to the object that a function is attached to. So here, this is referring to the car object. So when we write this dot total kilometers driven, we mean this car, so car dot total kilometers driven. So this value here, this dot total kilometers driven, is talking about this here. Then this is just adding the distance, which is our input parameter. So let's call a method. To call a method, you just write the object name again, car, then dot, then the name of the method, so we are driving it, and then we just put in brackets here to show that it's a function, and then if it has parameters, we put the parameters inside these brackets. So let's say we want to drive our car for 50 kilometers, we can just add 50 as our input parameter. Okay, let's run this code. So you can see that the total kilometers driven of our car is now 50 greater than what we initially gave it, because we have driven it for 50 kilometers. Let's try adding another method. This time let's add the cell method that we talked about. So it's going to be called cell, then a colon, and don't forget the comma in between all the methods and properties. So we have a comma, then the name of our new method, then we put the function keyword in, then the brackets that all functions have. Even if we're not giving it any input parameters like the cell function, we're not going to have any parameters for that, we still need to put these brackets here. Then the curly brackets to enclose what's going to happen in our function. So what do we want the cell function to do? The cell function is going to tell us that the car is now secondhand because we've sold it, so it's no longer not secondhand. So we'll write this to refer to the car, then this dot is secondhand will let us access the is secondhand property of our car. Then we can set that to true. Simple as that. Now let's try calling our car.cell method. So to call that, we have the name of our car variable object, and then dot, and then the name of the method, and then brackets to show that it's a method and not a property. Then when we run it, our car is now secondhand.